Well, the World Bank has labeled Nigeria's electricity subsidy as wasteful and regressive, warning that it undermines economic gains from recent reforms like the petrol subsidy removal and FX liberalization. In its 2025 Nigeria Development Update, the bank revealed that Nigeria spends 200 billion naira monthly on power subsidy funds, argues that this could be better invested in improving infrastructure and social services. All right, let's discuss this now with Barrister Sunday Oduton, is the CEO, Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors, joining me right here in the studio. It's great to have you, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, and shout out to Band A, customers. We know the pain, that we're going through right now. And, going back to the fuel subsidy removal, we're still in pain there. And now we're hearing the World Bank saying we must end the wasteful subsidy in the electricity sector. So talk to me about this.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think we all need to understand, when people talk about pain in Band A,
right.
I think it's that people don't understand what the government is trying to do.
Okay.
Or we don't even know the essence of having a 24/7 electricity, minimum of 24 hours on average, 24 hours, 20 hours to 24 hours. Now, talking about subsidy first, we need to understand why there is subsidy, what subsidy is all about. Subsidy is just a measure to bridge the gap between cost-reflected tariff and the regulated electricity rate. So, which means if the landing cost or the cost of production is 206 naira, and then government now say, okay, this is too much for people to bear, let them be paying 68 naira. So the difference between 68 naira and 206 is the subsidy. But the question we need to ask ourselves is, one, can Nigerian government carry this burden far? Two, have they been able to pay as I went due? If not, shortfall has existed over the years in the system. What is the implication of the shortfall? The shortfall has led to more inefficiencies on the part of the value chain. And when people talk about disco, any problem in the power sector is not limited to the disco, who, of course, we're the one we're the one below the value chain, but it's all about the whole of the value chain. Because if the generation company generates enough, and the transmission company can transmit it to the distribution companies, and the distribution company can distribute everything that has been transmitted to them, all of us will have an alignment, seamless. That is not the case. We are not where we are supposed to be,
so we have
but
a
we are
break
where we
in
are
transmission
today.
Somewhere.
We have across the board.
Okay.
So we are not where we are supposed to be. We are where we are now because there is a lot of liquidity crisis. And I'll tell you something about subsidy. In 2024, the government subsidy amounted to 2.4 trillion naira. 2024. And in 2023, it was 650 billion naira. So it increased to 2.4 trillion. In December 2024 alone, the subsidy was 199 billion. What was the cause of this? Inflation, exchange rate, and adjustment in power generation capacity. Now, January 2025, subsidy was 178.3 billion naira. And for the whole of 2025, the projected subsidy is 2.36 trillion naira.
It keeps going up.
This is not sustainable, this is not efficient, and this, in fact, fuel corruption because we don't have an effective template. We don't have a system that enables us to give subsidy to the right people. You cannot continue to give universal subsidy. Why should you, for instance, subsidize Chief Sunday Oduton? Why should you subsidize Mr. John Momo? Why should you subsidize Mr. Aliko Dangote? Why should you subsidize Mr. Sanwo-Olu, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, or Prince Dapo Abiodun? These are people that ordinarily should be able to pay the cost of their electricity. However, if you have a good system where you can actually identify the needy, where you can actually get those who really need the help. We are not against subsidy.
Right.
But I'm saying that what we have at the moment...
Well, it seems, subsidy has put a sour taste in the mouth of Nigerians, somehow, because it just feels like regardless, of the subsidy, there's still some kind of suffering, at the end of the day. Let's take, for instance, now some lessons from global reforms, some other countries. Let's start with Indonesia. If you can put that up for me. We see they remove fuel and electricity subsidies gradually for over 3 years. But we have a thing for just taking off subsidy, just like that. We saw the result there. Inflation spiked briefly, 5.1 to 8.3%, but stabilized with social welfare programs. Lesson learned there, phase removal plus safety nets. That reduces public anger. Saw the same thing in Egypt. They cut power subsidies for industries first, then, households. Industries adapted with solar energy. Household tariffs rose 45%, but blackouts decreased.
Okay, let's look at it this way. In fairness to the Nigerian government, this issue of electricity subsidy, I'm concerned with electricity, and I'm not speaking for the government. There are some of these questions that are better put to the government or the Minister of Power. But in fairness, the issue of removal of subsidy in the electricity subsector started with the removal of subsidy in the case of Band A customers. That's gradual. We started with Band A. Now, it is only fair that subsidy, as far as customers on Band B is concerned, should be removed. And I'll give you one of the reasons. If you're in Band B, you are getting electricity for an average of 16 to 19 hours. So you're getting 19 hours, you are paying 68 naira per kilowatt hour. Another neighbor or another gentleman elsewhere who is in Band A is paying 206 naira. See the difference between 19 hours of supply, you are paying 68 naira. Another man, 20 hours of supply, is paying 206.
Which some say they don't get up to 20 hours.
That is not sustainable. When you're talking about service delivery, or whether people are getting the service or not, that's a different matter. And it's not in all cases that this thing occurs. And where they are not getting the service, right now, the regulator is very strict on what has to be done. And this code don't migrate people to Band A without the regulators' approval. The regulator actually asks us to upgrade or get people to Band A. In Surulere, here in Lagos, I know of an area in Masha area, Adelabu and all those areas. They were protesting. They said they didn't want Band A. They didn't want Band A, but they like to have almost 24-hour electricity. Right. As I'm talking now, they have light. And when you have the service, you should be prepared to pay for it. What I think we should be looking at is, okay, if we remove subsidy, as we did in the case of Band A customers, let every single customer in Band A be metered. And before you start pushing back against the discos, you are not metering, everybody should go and look at the metering policy, who actually supply meters, how it is done. We are just participants in the market. We are not the one that actually own the meters or go and produce, supply, or install the meters.
Because it takes so long, when you request for a meter.
It takes so long
to get that meter.
That's why I said we are not where we are supposed to be. And instead of pointing accusing finger at anybody, we should all be looking at how best to improve the service and the system. For instance, we currently have a very terrible regulatory fines that are totally unfair, which NEC is doing now. How can you expect me to repair faulty meter within 3 days or 48 hours, even 4 days, in a large franchise area, and I have like 500 or 200 meters to be replaced, or
maybe employ more people to fix it.
You cannot do it. When you employ more people, you see, it's easier said than done. And talk is cheap. And the moment you keep on slamming me with 800 million naira fine, 130 million naira fine, it will affect me being able to even repair your transformer when it is faulty. Let us look at everything both ways. Let us look at how best we can deliver the service and make the system better. Let us look at how best we can serve Nigeria better. We cannot continue to do things and just look for, especially disco. Oh, discos are this, discos are that. People forget we are operating within this same Nigerian system, everybody has a role to play. I'm not saying this goes that we're doing enough. We're not even efficient enough. That is a fact. But show me any aspect, any part of the value chain that is efficient enough. None. Show me or tell me whether even the regulator is doing enough. They've done a lot of fantastic things, but I just mentioned very harsh, unrealistic regulatory fines that is more or less putting us back, not helping the system. But I also agree that sometimes they have to put in these regulatory fines, but it has to be measured. Not that you just slam a disco $1 billion fine. When you find somebody $1 billion, how do you expect them to get the money? Or you limit and reduce their operational expenses. And now I can't even get fuel in my truck to come and replace your pole.
So what would be the suitable time to get a meter fixed?
Again, it depends. It depends on our partners, the meter asset providers. The meter has to be available. Their personnel have to be available. There has to be that collaboration. Instead of focusing attention on the discos, the discos are the ones that are not. I don't control the meter asset provider. These are separate entities. These are companies that are accredited by our regulators. So people need to understand how the system works.
Do they get fined too?
I don't know about that.
Right. So
but I know that for every little thing that happens, the disco take the amps, both from the customers and of course from the regulator. We cannot continue like this. And when you start talking, discos are this, we want to do this to them, it's very easy to say things.
What would you say is the way forward, at this time? Because
the way forward is very simple. There should be collaboration, cooperation, and alignment. There are three words. Simple thing. From the government side, Ministry of Power, to the regulators who are also government agencies, states, of course, service provider operators like us, the discos, transmission, and of course, the power generators. Because at the end of the day, if we don't work together and everybody keep doing their own thing, it will not work. Alignment means if we are generating 10,000 megawatts, we must put in place a system, equipment, investment to enable us to transmit 10,000 megawatts. We must put in place a system, equipment, and infrastructure and investment that will enable us to distribute 10,000 megawatts. That will be 10, 10, 10. Generation 10, transmission 10, distribution 10. What do we have? A misalignment, total misalignment. What do? We point accusing finger. We look for somebody to blame. And the soft target, of course, are the discos, because we're the one that you know, we're the one that you see. If I'm not able to give you the hours that I require as a Band-Aid customer due to unavailability of supply to me from Transmission Company of Nigeria, for example, who do you blame? You blame me, the discos. The other time we were beaten by soldiers in Topo Badagry. Why? Because we were not able to supply them power because there was a problem, a maintenance going on by the Transmission Company of Nigeria. Who did they blame? Discos. Who did they beat? Discos. So we are the one that take all the arms.
Yes,
it is time for Nigerians to be realistic and stop blaming the disco for every problem in the system. And when you're talking about reform, Mr. Minister, good to reform, good idea, talk is cheap, but as you are doing it, please do it in a fair manner, in a way that the whole value chain needs to be aligned. Not just picking up disco. We do disco. We take one from the south, one from the north. As if reform has something to do with what do they call it? This national thing that you have to balance. You take one from the north,
right,
one from the south. It shouldn't be about that. It should be about a holistic approach to solve problems, not political talk.
Right. So definitely we've heard this before about taking off these subsidies that the government cannot afford it and all of that. So all of these misalignments that we'll talk about.
Yes.
We have to get that solved before we even start thinking of taking out the subsidy.
No, taking out the subsidy is part of steps that will align the system.
Because that will align the system.
Oh yes, because if you cannot pay the subsidy, why are you retaining the subsidy?
But it'll be the customers will be hard hit.
Not that. I'm saying that if you have correct data, the right type of data, you should be able to know those who are in need. You have to help the needy in the society. And that's why I mentioned Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who should not be subsidized. But when you have universal subsidy for everybody, the whole class of people in Band B today are being subsidized. Why should you be subsidizing a millionaire? But if you know of a pensioner, an old person, somebody who is weak,
we know there's a cost of living crisis. There's a cost of living crisis right now. And the ones that we think are millionaires might not be millionaires, because everyone is taking a hit, at this point. But still, the vulnerable, we should prioritize.
I will use you as an
vulnerable.
You should not be subsidized.
Okay.
You are working with channels, you are well paid.
Right.
And I have an idea of what it is.
Okay.
For that reason, you are not supposed to be subsidized. No, you shouldn't be. We should give subsidy to those who are in need.
Right.
And to do that,
I get that.
We should have correct data. Nigeria don't even have the data.
Right.
When you ask people that BVN and NIN should be linked to the electricity bill, they will push back. But if we have a system that enables us to know the old, the weak, even within the Band-A customers, there will surely be some people that would need help. The government should find a way to do that.
Some days I'll surprise you. Some days I don't have up to 50,000. I won't lie to you.
And because
there are some days like that. But let's look at this metering thing. Now we've had a couple of initiatives. The presidential metering initiative. The target was 10 million to deploy at least 10 million meters. That was government funded. We've also had distribution sector recovery program, about 3.2 million meters, meter acquisition fund. So there have been so many, initiatives regarding this metering quagmire. What else?
Well, the truth of the matter is that we still have so many Nigerians that are not metered. And I keep saying that if somebody is living within the Band-A bracket, every Band-A customers ought to be metered. If you don't give them meter and you are estimating them, it is evil. The incentive to pay will not even be there where they are supposed to pay. So the question of what method or what system we should use on metering is a question for the government. The government are solely in charge of their own decision on how best they want to go about it. And in the last 11 years that I've been within the system, I've witnessed different types of metering initiatives. And you can ask yourself, as a stakeholder, whether it has worked. For me, it hasn't really worked well. I mean, we should get to a point whereby we can take a cluster or an area or a place and we meter the whole of that place. Then the issue becomes who pays for it? How do you recover the cost? The meter manufacturer needs to be paid. They also need to be given incentives to be able to supply. You give them loan at single-digit rate. But sometimes we go through a very long distance, we still come back to the same point. We talk, one government after the other, one minister after the other, we buga. At the end of the day, the result is not there. That's the truth. All these metering things should not be a big deal. We know those who don't have meters. We know the area that we need to open up and meter them. The issue is how do we do it and make it seamless. I've seen meters being taken recently to a place in Surulere. They wanted to replace the meter. The customer had a three-phase meter. The customer had a three-phase meter. And you took a single-phase meter to the premises. Knowing the load, seeing everything there, is that right? That's not right. That means that meter manufacturer, that meter supplier, meter set provider, they have not done their homework. There's something wrong when it comes to the synergy between the DISCO and that meter manufacturer or meter supplier. This is the kind of system I expect the government to look into. But when we are busy pointing accusing fingers, giving excuses, looking for... We as DISCOs, as ANED that represent the DISCOs, we don't come here and tell you DISCOs are fine, they are the best, they are doing well. No, I'll tell you first and foremost, they were very inefficient. I've been saying this for the past 10 years. Say your own first. Tell us your own problem. But don't blame others without blaming yourself. And the moment
you must accept
we
your
hear
flaws
that from
too.
the government side, we'll be happy. Yes. So what we are having today, the system is not working the way it should be working. You don't tell a DISCO or a service provider to replace faulty meter within 48 hours. Even to take a car from here to Ikorodu, and how many of them can you do in a day? And when you say employ more people, well, tell the mutual asset provider to employ more people. That will increase their costs. So all these things we have to all look at and see what best will work for the system. And in doing so, we should not be blaming government, or we are blaming DISCO, we are blaming NEC. No,
so we're all
we should work together. I said it, collaboration, cooperation, and alignment. I'll be saying this.
And we'll see some transparency in there.
No, that's part of it. When there is alignment, there's collaboration, cooperation, we sit down, we talk, we look at things, then transparency will happen. And everybody should know the cost of everyone else. If you know my cost, you know how best I can recover my cost. And if I'm not doing the right thing, you then put the guillotine, you deal with me the proper way. But not selective and say, oh, we want to do this. We are looking at weak discourse. We take one from the south, we take one from the north. That alone says something. Why do you have to make it a geographical thing? If Ekwa and Ikeja Electric are the weakest discourse, that they are not doing well, unperforming discourse, they are fantastic anyway. But if they are not performing, then do your pilot with Ekwa and Ikeja. Don't say you have to take one from this side, as if it is a political thing.
Like a geopolitical zone thing.
It shouldn't be about that kind of thing.
All right. We'll definitely, keep this conversation going, because it's still with us, regardless at this point, and we do hope for better days, ahead. Affordable electricity, constant, and everybody's happy. Hopefully.
And cost-reflective electricity.
Cost-reflective. Thank you so much. Barrister Sunday Oduto is the CEO, Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors. Thank you for joining us today. All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we head straight to the global space. What's driving sentiments there? That's in a moment. Just stay with us.